Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 681. My opponent started off with e4 and I went with e5, the Sicilian defense. He goes knight f3, the normal move, and I play d6, setting up for a classical Sicilian. And now he plays the very rare move b3. And well, this gets us into unusual lines. It doesn't seem to be bad per se, but it doesn't present that many challenges for black, I guess. So I can't really recommend it. It seems like black can equalize pretty easily. The main move here seems to be e6, but just developing a piece with knight c6 can't be bad. Just waiting around to see what white is doing. And once again, it seems like e6 is the main move here in the opening book. But well, e5 is okay too. Just set up for a solid center. And white really doesn't want that, it appears, in this game, because he goes with c3 and d4 to bust up that center. So he goes directly against my plan. But in practice, that seems to be just too slow, and black gets kind of an advantage, starting with this move c3. So c3 seems to be the beginning of a bad plan. Also, it looks kind of funny blocking in the bishop, but, well, he has ideas of opening up the center, so that's what he's doing there. Another line which is a little more promising for white here is just to develop normally with bishop to c4, and I looked at this line. If I go with the fianchetto here, like I was playing in the game, he can castle, I castle, and play a4 to secure his bishop on c4, go knight f6. And it seems like this is kind of a normal position that white can play. I guess with the bishop outside the pawn chain, it's now possible to defend the center with the d-pawn. But this would lead to definitely a closed position, and it's hard to see how white would ever get this bishop into the game. But it seems like, well, black also has problems too. This bishop isn't easily getting into the game either, blocked by the center. So both sides are going to be looking for ways to break open the center. Anyway, a long game in store with chances for both sides. After he played c3, it seems like black has some kind of advantage. And I just played normal developing moves like knight f6, putting pressure on the pawn. And, well, he doesn't want to defend it with the d-pawn, keeping this bishop blocked in, and also taking an extra move to go to d4, which is his long-term plan. So he defends with the bishop. I go about setting up my fianchetto. He has to move the bishop again to get it out of the way of the d-pawn. I go bishop g7, and finally gets in d4. So actually, I was a little bit worried here. Let's see. Well, I go ahead and exchange. And I thought he was actually threatening to win the pawn here, and I played this defensive move, knight to d7. The chess engine, well, you can see it's a really long line here, but the chess engine says actually that's not a threat, that black is fine, and he can just castle here. So after all of these exchanges, we could see a little bit of this. Say we get these exchanges, and then he grabs the pawn. You know, I can take back and then try and, oops, not that bishop, the other one, try and skewer the bishop with my rook. But, well, he can defend with f4. And, well, this is the part where you might give up. Okay, he's just won a pawn. You know, his position maybe is a little awkward because he hasn't castled yet and he hasn't developed his knight, so maybe white has compensation for the pawn. But actually, white has more than that. White can get the pawn back. I mean, black. Black has more than that, because black can get the pawn back by just grabbing here and taking advantage of that pin along the e file, since he hasn't castled yet. So so this is all pretty forced. Let's see. He can play check to start to unwind, and then he can castle to unpin. But then I can grab. And then he's in trouble here. Let's see. Yeah, there's no time to take the pawn because I'll take back with the bishop, and then this rook is stuck in the corner. The knight can't, the rook has no moves, and the knight can't block on c3 because the bishop will just take it. So he's got to play the move knight a3, and that gives me time to grab this pawn with tempo because the bishop is hitting the rook. Anyway, the line just goes on, and but you can see the chess engine likes black, and it's kind of a good illustration of how the activity of the pieces is important, and eventually that line ends up with black being a pawn up actually. Let's see, other things I could have tried here would just be bishop g4, and that would be a normal move. Let's see, you could go with d5. He can't play h3 here because I would take a knight and then I could win a pawn. So he has to push the pawn forward. And anyway, that would be a different game, but also with an advantage to black. Let's see, knight d7, this is still okay. He goes d5, so we get that kind of closed position. I have knight b4 here, and this does work. I was a little unsure about this during the game, but now I'm getting to this square with a, I can always escape that square by taking the bishop. Let's see, so he castles, I castled. I'm not in any hurry to do anything with that knight. He goes bishop a3, chasing the knight away, and then I took on c2, getting the bishop pair. But actually, the chess engine likes just playing a5 here, keeping that knight in place and keeping his bishops passive. So that's also a reasonable way to play. Knight takes c2 seems to be okay. And then knight to f6. So I've defended the d-pawn by getting my knight out of the way. And he tries to bring his knight in on the attack. But I block it so it can't come into b5 and gang up on my d-pawn. I do have to take care of this. This is a weak spot in this structure. But it seems that overall black is just doing fine here. He goes h3 and I go knight e8, preparing to push the f-pawn forward. Could also have played my knight over to h5. That's probably a little better, a little more active for the knight. But the knight on e8, in addition to getting out of the way of the f-pawn, is also adding an extra defender to d6, so that has some points. Let's see, he goes knight h2, and I push on with f5. And it seems by this point that actually black has a significant advantage. I guess these moves that white has made didn't really lead anywhere. For example, his knight c3 move. After I play a6, the knight doesn't have anywhere to go. And this h3 and knight h2 maneuver doesn't seem to accomplish a whole lot for white. And so gradually black's advantage has been increasing through these moves. Let's see, he played f5. I played f5 and he took it. And I developed my bishop with tempo on his queen. I was his queen over to d2. And I get my rook, the c file, putting pressure on his knight. And yeah, I just have better pieces, I guess. And also I do have the bishop pair. That's an advantage in the long run as well. And I always have ideas of pushing this pawn forward, for example, and opening up that diagonal. He handles those threats pretty well. Let's see, he comes back to, oh, it's my turn. I play knight f6, trying to get my knight back in the game. And I'm setting my sights on the d-pawn now. And now he plays f3. Which seems to be the losing move here. And it looks like a funny move, but it has some point. It is trying to keep control of this e4 square. In fact, the chess engine thinks the best play would go something like this: rook f to d1, getting this rook out to an active square. Let's see, I bring my rook up to c7, maybe with ideas of doubling over here, and now f3. So even the chess engine wants to play f3, but this does... I don't know. It seems to be creating some weaknesses. Although with the rook on c7, I don't have this immediate queen b6 idea. So after f3, I played b5, just going after these pawns over here on the queen side. These pieces over here on the queen side, rather. But I did have the immediate queen b6 check. I guess this is why f3 is bad. And after the king goes here, I have knight h5, threatening to come in with a fork, which is very hard to prevent. In fact, the chess engine gives up the exchange here by playing like this, and this is good for black. If queen e1 is played here, trying to defend or prevent knight to g3, then bishop to h6 causes a lot of trouble. The queen is doing two jobs here. The queen is defending g3 against the threat of knight g3, and it's also defending this rook, which is under some pressure, so that if this rook moves away, the queen is overloaded. I can just take the knight and then come in here and check, or something like that. There's some way to take advantage of that overloading, but the rook has no squares along this file to defend the knight. So white just sort of collapses in this position. Rook d1, and then you can take the knight off here, or you can play the check. Yeah, I'm not sure which one is more effective. Anyway, black is in good shape there. So that's the best way to take advantage of that. I went with b5. This also keeps an advantage to black. He goes knight e2, and this helps. This his knight was a target there, and the knight also defends the g3 square, so it gets rid of some of those threats that I had. I go for the check now. His king goes over here to h1. Let's see, and I play a5. I'm just going to shut out this bishop here. He played g4, kicking my bishop back. And then he went rook takes c8. And then he plays f4. And white just falls apart after this move. So he was at a losing position after f3, but now things go downhill pretty quickly. The chess engine wants to defend with b5, preventing me from playing b5 myself and kicking the bishop back to the b2 square, where it's vulnerable to some tactics, as we see in the game. But, well, this can't be very good for white either. The bishop is sort of permanently shut out of the game over here. So, you know, f4 is a try, but, well, it's always going to be dangerous to open up the position when you're not prepared for it, and I'm just better poised. My pieces are better placed for this opening of the position. And now this is just winning for black. So I push the pawn forward. He drops back to b2, and now there's a nice tactic right here that I didn't spot during the game, but if you want to play, find the best move for black here, see if you can spot the idea. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Pause the video if you want some time to think about it. The answer is knight to e4. The knight comes to e4. It's an unguarded square. It can just top in there, and it comes with tempo, hitting the queen. And when the queen drops back, then the rook can come in to the second rank here, and this is just spelling a disaster. Let's see, and the queen has to go over this way, because the queen drops back here, for example, trying to defend c2. Then you've got this wins the exchange, and well, where else can the queen go? So anyway, queen to e1. There weren't many other alternatives. And then rook to c2, threatening this bishop, and also threatening the knight, so that the queen can't come over and defend the bishop. And if the bishop moves out of the way, you can grab a pawn here, but basically you're just breaking through on the second rank, and probably bring this bishop out and coordinate against the knight there. So anyway, things just fall apart in a hurry. Let's see, the way I played it, I played rook to c5. I was still kind of focused on this pawn here is the key to white's position. This is like his one positional asset, and I was just going to destroy it. He played queen to e3 here. Let's see, he could have tried, I guess, f takes e5. This is the best line from here. I can grab this pawn, but I get the d5 pawn with an attack on his queen, and he can defend with the bishop, and I drop back here. And once again, this is a position where the material is even, but you know, all my pieces are kind of pretty actively placed, and I have the bishops ready to spring into the game. So this is actually a winning position for black, although the line goes on for quite a while here. There's ways that white can continue. Anyway, queen e3. Now I just take this pawn, hitting his queen. Queen drops back to f2, and now I bring my rook into c2. Because I had seen this line after the exchanges, the rook is forking two pieces along the second rank there. So, and that's what happened. He exchanged queens, and then ran out of time looking for a move here. But there's no way to save material, so I'm going to just win a piece here. So anyway, pretty interesting, nice tactical explosion there at the end of the game. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.